Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart for those of you that are new. And today I'll be breaking down this 14 game, that is right, 14 game NBA slate here on DraftKings for Wednesday night. So, obviously, a huge slate here. Going to be a ton of injury news, so make sure to stay updated with that news. Hit that like button and subscribe. And I'll be going through a game by game breakdown, going over my favorite plays and going over my core plays and building a potential lineup for you guys here for this slate. So, make sure to hit that like button. Check out my NFL DFS breakdown for the Thanksgiving slate. That'll be out this afternoon. So I'll upload this, or excuse me, that'll be out tomorrow afternoon. I'll upload this tonight, but tomorrow afternoon, check that out. That should be coming out if you guys do play NFL DFS on DraftKings. But starting off here for the core plays for tonight. Right now, cashing in one lineup, and I'm like 10 and 12 points out of cash in my other lineup. But in one of my lineups, I have 80 left, and he has 25 fantasy points right now in the first quarter. And then the other lineup, I have 80 and Booker. And Booker's got 30, and the third quarter just started. So should be able to cash in both lineups. Not going to win anything crazy, but at least get my money back. So that'll be solid. But the core plays for me were Struce, who went off for 42, Jalen Johnson, who scored 40, 80, and Booker. So those are the four core plays. I also got fit Garland into that lineup as well. So looking like a pretty solid night overall. But I did play TJ McConnell. Um, Also played Porter, which was great. I think he got 30, but yeah, played TJ McConnell as my other guard there. And that really hurts because he got like 8 fantasy points. The game when they scored like 200 points and the dude barely played. It was a little annoying there. As the backup point guard, you'd expect him to play a little bit more, but oh well. Still, we'll get that money back. So, yeah, heading into this 14 game slate here, going to be a pretty quick breakdown. Hopefully, keep this around 15 minutes for you guys here. Get you in and out the door. But for this slate tomorrow, we have the Wizards and Hornets. Obviously, fantastic game total here, 242, 4 point spread. Two terrible teams, two of the worst defenses, two of the worst teams in the league. So that looks like a fantastic first game to target there. Nuggets, Orlando, 4 point spread, 217.5 game total. Don't love that. Orlando is the number one defense in the league. So they've actually been doing very, very good defensively. They just blew out the Raptors tonight. It was pretty much a 20-point game that whole night. Nets Hawks, another great game environment here. 4 point spread, 232.5 game total. Heat Cavs, 2 point spread, 214. The Cavs are playing tonight. It just went to overtime. So I don't think anyone will rest, but maybe someone gets ruled out and we can look to some value there. Raptors Pacers, 3.5 point spread, 236.5. Another great game environment. Grizzlies Rockets, pretty gross here. 5.5 point spread, 213. But it's some interesting pieces from this game here, especially the Grizzlies side. They are down a bunch of people right now. Sixers, Timberwolves. Sixers obviously just played tonight. They just got an overtime game with the Cavs and they lost. But 5.5 point spread, 219.5 game total. Kings, Pelicans, 1.5 point spread, 236.5. So another great game environment there. Bulls, Thunder, 7 point spread, 223.5 game total. Clippers, Spurs, 8.5 point spread, 231. Warriors, Suns, 2 point spread, 233.5. Suns are playing tonight. Jazz, Blazers, 3 point spread, 226.5 game total. And then Mavs, Lakers, 1.5 point spread, 234.5 game total. So, ton of games here for tomorrow. Let's hop into this first one here. As I said, great game environment here. Obviously, we're going to want to look to Kuzma and Poole to lead this team. Obviously, Kuzma is the better play. Poole finally had a decent game there, went for 30 points, but obviously went for barely any peripheral stats. So, once again, I do think Kuzma is going to be the better option. But the interesting price tag at 6.3K for Poole is very enticing as well. Great game environment. So really like both these guys here. I think Denny's a pretty strong mid-range option, the guy who usually stuffs the stat sheet. So his price has come down 5.6. I like that. Trey Jones is interesting as well. It's just one of those things. Usually not that aggressive, but if he can see about 30 minutes, he can easily pay off 5.4K, even if he's not that aggressive. So good amount to like here for the Washington side here. Bilal, not much interest for him, for me. More kind of a defensive minded guy. Gafford is all the way down to $4,200. I don't really know why. This dude is going to be starting and playing close to 30 minutes if he stays out of foul trouble. 4,200. As you can see, I think this is a massive misprice. I really don't understand why he's 4,200 right there. As you can see, he's been 5K pretty much since the start of the season, and now he's $1,000 cheaper. So massive upside there if he can just stay out of foul trouble. So absolutely love that price tag right now for Gafford. Still very confused about that price tag. Kispert should see low mid 20s minutes. I think he's okay. Still don't love the price tag on him. Gallinari, they'll mix him in for about 15. Kind of scoring dependence. He's there. But yeah, I don't really think he needs to get to the value right now for the Washington side. On the Charlotte side here, Obviously, this game stays close. Once again, Rozier is out. It's going to be because of LaMelo Ball. Been absolutely fantastic the past like week and a half, 2 weeks. Going for 50 or more in pretty much every single game there. Close to triple double every single game. So he looks like a great pay up option at 10.2K. I still really like Miles Bridges here. The minutes have been insane. He's shooting the ball 10 plus times again. He's really good at getting rebounds and assists. So once again, really like him here. Great option in this game here. Rozier is still out, so obviously that's just a safe minutes bump there for LaMelo. Mark Williams, second in the league in terms of, I think, 15 and 15 games this season behind Jokic. So it's one of those things. If this dude can stay out of foul trouble and if he can be decently productive, he has a massive ceiling, can go for easily a 50 bomb there. It's just one of those things that comes down to kind of, can he get the blocks and can he get that double double? If he can, great game environment here. I think he's a solid option. A little risky, but still a solid option. Like the price tag in Gordon Hayward, he saw 39 minutes, 15 times he shot the ball. So yeah, I mean, good amount of interest in him there from me. PJ Washington, more so of a random contrarian play here. Don't love the fact that Miles Bridges is back, and PJ is kind of going to be that fourth option behind or tied with Gordon Hayward right now. Brandon Miller will probably move back to the bench here. Played 40 minutes, but as kind of being the rookie there, I think he's just an okay GPP option. Theo will come off the bench. Won't play much there. They'll kind of just run these main guys here: LaMelo, Miles, Mark Williams, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, Brandon Miller, and then they'll mix in a little bit of like Thor ish and Theo as kind of the backup, like eighth, ninth man, whatever you want to call it. For Denver here, actually clicked on something here. Let me close this out. But for the Denver side here against Orlando, obviously it's Jokic. If value opens up, which it should, it's a 14 game slate. Usually it turns into chaos with all the injury news. But if value opens up, Jokic looks like a great play, even if in a tough defensive matchup. Gordon and MPJ look fine to me. Secondary options. Reggie Jackson had a really good game last game. Almost went for a 40 bomb there, but 5.6, I think it's a fine price tag. His price did come up a little bit there. Usually kind of floating around 25 fantasy points. So I still think he's an okay option. KCP always kind of a random GPP option there. As you can see, it does have a little bit of a ceiling, but once again, it doesn't really happen often. And that's really it for me. Don't have much interest. Christian Brown would probably be the best value option there off the bench. He's been a little bit more aggressive recently, but that's about it. On to Orlando here. It really depends on Fultz. If Fultz is out, then I still have interest in, Paolo and Franz as, solid contrarian options. If Fultz is back in, and then obviously if he's out, Suggs would be more valuable or more playable. Same thing with Cole Anthony. They both be pretty interesting plays there. Pretty cheap price tags. They both have decent ceilings. Otherwise, if Fultz is back, really muddies up the waters here for the guards. I think the guards would be, decent secondary options. Fultz and Paolo would be fine, but not much to love here for me in terms of the Orlando side. Isaac, could be a sneaky value option if they're going to need him to guard Jokic at times. They could definitely look to him. But yeah, I mean, they'll play probably a 10-man rotation there. So no one really stands out to me as of right now, depending on that Fultz news, which we'll get. So I could kind of change the route there. Heading over to Milwaukee and Boston here. Giannis looks really good at 11.4K. Dame is questionable, so obviously it's big news here, but obviously he should be good to go to play with the news down at the bottom. But yeah, I think they're fine plays if you land on them. No one really sticks out. Brook is there. He does have a ceiling. Bobby should come off the bench. Middleton is still on a minutes limit. Seeing 23 now. So it still seems like he's going to be under 25. So no interest in him for me. Connaughton's a fine value at 4,000. And same thing with Beauchamp. If he plays, he's a fine value. Otherwise, if he's out, Connaughton's kind of that main value piece off the bench. Moving on to Boston here. Still absolutely love the price tag of Tatum. It was a fantastic play there. 3% ownership, dropped to 77 bomb for us that last slate. Once again, absolutely love him here in this matchup. Porzingis more so of a contrarian, spend up options. Him to Brown and Holiday. If you land on any of these three guys, I don't mind it. The more secondary plays, I think Tatum's the one that stands out to me. And I do still really like Derek White. Should see 30 minutes. He's pretty aggressive, good defensively, can stuff the stat sheet. So I like him. Horford should come off the bench. He probably will see a good amount of minutes here just because he's actually really good at guarding Giannis. So I wouldn't be surprised if he sees like mid-20s minutes. So I actually think he's a fine value at 5.3K if you're looking for a cheap center option. So he should use a good amount, see a good amount of minutes there off the bench. Otherwise, not much interest in the value plays for me. Moving on to Brooklyn here versus Atlanta. Brooklyn side here, Cam Thomas is obviously still out, and same thing with Ben Simmons. He is out as well. So once again, it's going to be that same offense as we kind of saw the last year, the last like 20 games where It's going to be led by Miles Bridges, who I think is a great spend up option at 8K. Dinwiddie is a pretty strong secondary piece here. Does have some upside, should be aggressive. I'd rather get to Miles Bridges, but if you land on Dinwiddie, I don't mind it. Also has the point guard, shooting guard eligibility. I think Claxton, once again, is a very, very strong option here. Minutes weren't great in that last game against Philly. Obviously, it was a blowout. And then before that, only saw 26 there, which was very frustrating because they did not close with him, even though he was the second leading scorer on the team. He was doing very well. They closed with, who was it? Trenton Wofford. They closed with Trenton Wofford over Claxton, which made no sense. But once again, absolutely love the price here of Claxton. Last season, I think he got up to what, like 7K range. Like he has that ability to go for like 35, 40 plus easily. Double upside blocks. So absolutely love him here in this matchup going against Capella. Lonnie Walker's been very strong off the bench here. Going to be kind of their main scoring guy off the bench. A little bit scoring dependent, as you can see. I think he's a fine option if you land on him. I do like Cam Johnson once again. Massive foul trouble against the Heat. Obviously, a blowout versus Philadelphia. One of those guys that can, if he hits his shots, he is pretty scoring dependent as well. But one of those guys who's going to be aggressive, will look for his shots. I think he's a strong 5K option. DFS and Worse than they are fine. I'd rather get to, Cam Johnson and Miles Bridges, or Mikal Bridges, excuse me. And then, De'Aaron Sharp's down there. But that's really it. I'd rather just stick to Bridges, Dinwiddie, Cam Johnson, and then Claxton. They both all look still very strong. On the Atlanta side here, Trae Young, DeJounte are fine plays coming off of a game tonight. Jalen Johnson still a very strong play here in the 6K range. Went for 43 last game, went for 40 tonight. So he's a guy that can absolutely stuff the stat sheet. Capella, just kind of there for me. Bogdan has actually been super aggressive recently. The minutes have been up. He had another good shooting night tonight. Didn't do anything peripheral stat-wise, but I still think he's a strong option at 5K. In that 5K range, Okongwu goes all the way up to 5,000. Don't love that price tag there. He's going to be splitting the center minutes with Capella, but 5,000 for a guy who's going to be probably seeing about 20 minutes is not the best there. Bay, price has come up. Another strong night for him. He had a double, 12 and 10. So I think it's still a strong option there off the bench. Hunter going to be more so that contrarian option in the wing range there for the Hawks. And that's really it there for Atlanta. Moving on to Toronto here. We know what Scotty's going to do. His price is slowly dropping. They have not been the best recently, involved in a bunch of blowouts. Milwaukee was a blowout. Detroit was a blowout. Tonight was a blowout. They lost by 22 at the Orlando Magic. As you can see, 29, 39. I think tonight he went for like maybe 30. So I do like buying in on Scotty here. Pascal's still a decent option at 8K, but I'd rather get to Scotty for $600 more. Schroeder actually had a good night scoring, but didn't do much peripheral stat wise. I still think he's a fine option there at 6.5K. And then Portal, it's just one of those things, the minutes. If he can stay out of foul trouble and if he can see 30 minutes, he's one of those guys that can easily break the slate. But that's the big question mark, right? Like, will he stay out of foul trouble and will he get those minutes? That's the risk that you get with playing him. I think OG's probably standing out as the best play alongside Scotty Barnes for me right now. Gary Trent's a fine play there off the bench. Very score independent. And I do think, Boucher and Precious are still pretty strong value options down there. They should both see about 20 minutes, and they're both usually pretty productive in their amount of time off the bench. Excuse me. Obviously, it helps if, people get in foul trouble. For Indiana, it's hard to deny. Halliburton is just far too cheap. Tonight he was 10.4K. He went for another, I think, 70 bomb. So 2 70 bombs in the past 3 games here. It's just insane, this dude's upside. So once again, absolutely love Tyrese Halliburton and 10K here. Even in a slower pace matchup, it's just insane upside with Tyrese right now. Turner, more so of that contrarian play there. Did not do well tonight, even though they scored like 170 points. I think he only saw like mid-20s minutes as well. It's pretty weird. Bruce Brown, Mathurin, Heald, Toppin, all fine plays. They started Heald and Naismith tonight, which if Naismith starts again, he'd be a solid option, 4.2K. Minutes weren't the best because he did get in foul trouble in the first half, but if he stays out of foul trouble, 4.2K, he's a little bit score independent, but he could easily pay off that price tag. So he'd once again be my favorite option there in the cheaper range. Jalen Smith would be definitely a decent option down there, another cheap guy. But yeah, not a lot to like there in that range because they're starting other people every other game, and it's very annoying. It's just really Halliburton's team, and that's it. Moving on to Miami here versus Cleveland. Miami, Bam looks really strong at 8.9K here. He should be good to go. Jimmy, I really like this price tag in Jimmy. Kind of, not the best recently, 33 and 30, but we know the upside is there with him. Hero's still out. Duncan's a fine play there at 5.8. Jaime is getting, priced up, but he's seen a ton of minutes, as you can see. He's been pretty efficient as well. Don't think I'd play him, but he is definitely there. Kyle Lowry, I still have interest in him, 4.7. The minutes just have not been great, but that's what you're kind of looking for. Back-to-back games of close to 25 fantasy points. He's pretty cheap now, 4.7. So all it takes is one of those games for him to have a few steals, go for 12 points, a couple rebounds, a couple assists, and he's easily going to be decently optimal at 4.7. So still a lot of interest in him. Richardson should see high 20s minutes. I think he's a fine value. Love is out. So it'd just be more minutes to a guy like Highsmith down here. They'll spread some minutes to Caleb Martin, who's, I think, an interesting GPP dart throw play down there at 3.4. Moving on to Cleveland here. The big news is Donovan Mitchell did not play tonight, but I think we will probably see him tomorrow. So if he's back, not much interest in this team for me. If he's back, obviously if he's out, once again, Garland doesn't look the best here at 7.9 against Miami, but still would be a strong play. Mobley would be pretty solid. Strus and Allen still would be pretty solid plays. Porter Jr. priced up, but he'd be a very good play off the bench. So a lot to like here. Obviously, Okoro might be back as well. So kind of more so wait and see approach here for Cleveland because Donovan Mitchell really decides that whole team and how we want to play them. Moving on to the Clippers here versus Spurs. They blew them out that last game. But once again, I think this team is more so just contrarian options if you want to get to someone pretty contrarian like as a spin-up play. Don't love them. Paul George has been the most consistent of the group so far. But I think Kawhi would probably still offer the highest ceiling. James Harden, I think it's just a decent play there that now that Russ is off the bench. Russ saw 25 minutes that last game. So once again, not a lot to like here. I think Zubac is interesting at times. Powell does have a little bit of upside, but he's priced up to 5K there. So not a lot to like here. Man, going to start, but not doing much offensively, more of a defensive-minded guy. And then I mentioned Tice did play 20 minutes. Obviously, he shot the ball very well, so he got extended. But I guess he's a cheap value center play there at 3.8, but not a lot to like there for the Clippers. For the Spurs, kind of the same thing. It depends on Vassell. If Vassell's in, I think he'd be an okay option. Collins would be interesting as well at his price tag, but not the best matchup here. And they all kind of seem priced about right. No one really stands out to me. You can get to Seti as a decent value option. Two really solid games in a row. Obviously, blowouts really helped him. But yeah, they're all kind of just there for me. Not a lot to like for the Spurs. Moving on to Chicago here versus OKC. Once again, I think the Bulls, stars are all pretty cheap here. Zach, is probable, so he should be good to go. But yeah, all pretty cheap here. I think Vooch, it's priced about right. It's priced kind of how I rank them. Vooch first, then Zach, then DeMar. But very, very cheap price tags here for the Chicago team. And all three of these guys lead the team in terms of usage. Kobe White's a fine, play in the mid-range there, kind of like a Kyle Lowry. Just comes down to the minutes and him hitting the shots. If he does, I think he's a pretty decent play at 5.5. Caruso starts once again. I think is a strong play. They're going to need his defense against Shea. So I once again really like him if he's going to start. He's been pretty productive recently in that starting spot. Then I'll mention, Torrey Craig. He'll get some minutes, but nothing too crazy there. And that's really it. They'll mix in some Jalen Carter, Io, Pat Williams, Drummond, but nothing too crazy there. It's really just the main three stars and then Caruso or Kobe White. For the OKC here, SGA's price is coming down. Not really sure why. It does feel like on this 14-game slate, they wanted to make it a little bit easier for people to kind of pay up and play a bunch of different people. So absolutely love the price tag here for SGA. Absolutely cooks the Bulls, so he looks really strong. I think Chet's a decent option. Had a very disappointing first game against the Bulls there at the start of the season, but since then, he's actually been very, very strong, getting better every single game. So he's an interesting play there. Giddey's okay. Jalen Williams is out. So we'll see who they start for him. But it doesn't really change too much for me. Isaiah Joe's kind of priced up now. Lou Dort's price is dropping. Minutes have been the best. Casey Wallen probably starts, but he's more defensive minded. I guess he'd still be an okay play. Kendrick Williams is back. Another one of those guys I'm throwing in the mix. He's an okay value play. Wiggins as well. So they'll just kind of mix in a bunch of those, forwards there. So not a ton to love here for kind of the value side because they'll just play so many people. Moving on to the Kings here versus the Pelicans. I think Sabonis, once again, fantastic spin-up option. They got blown out there against the Pelicans. Otherwise, he's on pace to have another fantastic game. So really like him. Fox, a little bit more score independent, but he's been fantastic peripheral stat-wise for the most part all year. So once again, I think they're both very strong plays there. Monk, an interesting GPP option off the bench there, whose minutes aren't always a guarantee, even if he's doing well. Herter, priced too much up for me at 5.9. Keegan Murray is questionable. If he's out, it will open up some value because they'll go to a guy like Duarte, possibly, even a guy like Kessler Edwards off the bench, who is a very score independent guy. But obviously, would open up some value for us. So stay tuned for that. Trey Lyles might also be back here for the first time this season. If he's back, not on commencement, I'd have a good amount of interest in him because he'd pick up kind of those probably those power forward spots. He might start as well. So that's the big news there is Keegan Murray could open up a decent amount of value for the King side there that we can get to as some salary relief for this slate. For the Pelicans here, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williams will lead the team. I prefer getting to Zion for that price tag. J-Val, his minutes have actually been a little bit better recently. Obviously, huge blowout there. Did ruin his shots of going for a triple-double. But yeah, strung 3 straight games where he probably would have saw another 30 minutes there. So once again, they're pretty short-handed. So I do like J-Val. Good amount here at 7K going against a bonus. Herb Jones has just been great at getting the steals and blocks. So once again, he's been very, very solid at 6.3, even when he's not shooting the ball a ton. Has really been making up for it with steals and blocks, which I don't know if it can continue, but he's also great defensively. So interest in him. Dyson Daniels, kind of like, as I mentioned, I like Kobe, I like Lowry, I like Dyson Daniels. Why? Because they're all going to play close to 30 minutes and they can all stuff the stat sheet if they just hit some shots. So I like him once again. And I will mention now, Najee Marshall got some blowout run, but one of those guys who's usually productive off the bench and will play whether it's a blowout or not. Philly, it's pretty much the Embiid and Maxey show. I think they're both strong plays if you want to get to them. Tobias a little bit too pricey for me. Same thing with Melton. But they'll get the minutes. They'll be there. That's really it for me. Batum is an okay value option, but not the best. Moving on to Philly here. Still love the price tag for Towns and Edwards. I'd rather get to Edwards. I still think he's a very strong player. Excuse me. Almost went for 50 bomb last game at very low ownership. So once again, I absolutely love him. He's the leader of this team. Gobert is a fine secondary option. Conley, Anderson are there. Reed, very cheap here, 3.9K. So I do like him a good amount as a value play, especially if there gets in, some foul trouble for a guy like Gobert or Towns. Regarding Embiid, Reed is going to be that guy that picks up the minutes. He's also very foul prone himself, but he should see a good amount of minutes. Moving on to Memphis versus Houston here. For the Memphis side, Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. are going to lead this team in terms of usage. Santi's really stepped up recently. Went off for a career high game there, 60 fantasy points, 39 minutes. So I think he's a strong option, 6.1. It looks like he should be very aggressive, should start again. Biyombo's a fine option at 5.6K here. Just stays out of foul trouble. He should see a decent amount of minutes. And yeah, they're very, very short-handed. It's those 3 to start, or Bane, Jackson Jr., Santi, Biyombo, and they'll probably start like a Conchar. He started last game, only saw 26 minutes. Not the most productive that game, but usually is decently productive. So good amount of interest here in terms of the value for Memphis. Like Conchar, if he starts again, I think Roddy and Williams are fine off the bench. And then Rose, if he's not at minutes limit, I think he's a decent, kind of a pump play down there. That's really it for Memphis. For Houston here, Sengun's been on a huge streak here, so I think he's a strong center option. Van Fleet's there, Jalen Green's there. Nothing really stands out to me besides probably Sengun. Maybe taking a shot on Fred is kind of very contrarian play. And then maybe getting down to Eason here, who's one of those guys, kind of like a Najee Marshall, where they're very productive, should see about 20-ish minutes there. And obviously would get more run if it's a blowout. Moving on to Houston here, Utah, Portland. Laurie always a great contrarian spin up. Jackson's finally kind of priced out of the range for me, but still going to be that secondary scorer alongside Laurie. Collins is there, 6.7, doesn't feel the best, but does have double-double upside. Keontae George should start 5.6, kind of like a Kobe, Kyle Lowry, and Dyson Daniels play. Should see about 30-ish minutes. He's been a little bit more aggressive recently, which you do like to see. He has that double-double upside with assists if he can hit the shot. So I think he might be my favorite of that group of that 5K range for guards. And that's really it. I will mention Kelly Olynyk, usually productive at times, but that's about it. Baji has been starting. Texans off the bench. They're there. Moving on to Portland here. Brogdon, I think it's a fine play at 8K. With him back, really kind of muddies the waters for the rest of this team. They're all kind of contrarian plays, priced about right for me. No one really stands out too much. Reed has been getting some minutes recently, so sure, if you wanted to punt on him, you could. But moving on to Golden State here in Phoenix. Golden State, Steph is very cheap here, 9.3K. Not really sure why he's this cheap. So I think it's just one of the things. You throw Steph in there, way too cheap of a price. Chris Paul actually had a decent game last game. Yeah, I mean, if he starts again, I still think he's a strong option, 7.2. More so contrarian play there, but he's had some upside recently. Clay Thompson's very cheap, but once again, not been the best. But it's one of those things, Clay, one of these days, will have a good shooting game. Kevon Looney, I think is a strong option here, 5.6. They'll need him against Nurkic. Wiggins, just not seeing the minutes. Finally seeing 30 in the past two, but that's with some people being out. So I still think he's a risky option. If he could see 30 minutes out of Wiggins, I think he'd be a strong played 5.3. But once again, it's hard to trust that. Sarge has been good off the bench. They've been giving him more run. He's a fine play. Kaminga's there. They Peyton, who might be back. Moody. Just a lot to throw there off the bench, which has been eating into Andrew Wiggins' minutes. On the Phoenix side here, 10.4 for Durant, Booker. They both look like strong options, to pay up for. The rest of the team just kind of there for me. No one really stands out. Eubanks is a decent value option. Same thing with, Bates Diop. And that does it for the slate breakdown for today, guys. I know I said 15 minutes, went 10 minutes over. Kind of hard when it's a 14 massive game slate. Pretty much everyone in the league is playing tomorrow. So I think there's a lot of different ways we can go. It's probably going to be more so stars and scrubs, but I do think there's a lot of guards in that 5K range that do offer 25, 30 plus upside, as well as the ability to play up for guys like SGA and Steph Curry who have massive upside. Anthony Edwards is sitting there in a great game. Claxton, Gafford is way too cheap here. So there's a lot of very cheap guys here that are surprisingly cheap. I do think we want to lock in. So these are kind of the core plays, kind of the route I'm looking at right now. Obviously, there's some injury news we have to wait for, which really changes the core plays in the slate. So make sure to stay updated with me on my Patreon link down below. Hit that like button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.